Good morning, everyone, and welcome to GPA Trading Services live trading class on this Tuesday, November the 18th, 2025. As you know, today is Tuesday, Gary's Market Forecaster, GMF. It's the heads up on what's going down in the markets. But first, we have very specific rules of engagement. Those include the following. Do not trade with money you cannot afford to lose. Always trade with protective stops. Make certain the 4-hour, the 1-hour, the 30, and the 15-minute time frames align prior to trading with the MPA PE5 version 5.0 software. Also adhere to very strict money management rules, which includes never risking more than 2% of your entire account balance on any one given trade. For options friends, never risk more than 5% of your entire account balance on any one given options trade. And finally, all information provided by GPA Trading Services is for your educational purposes. So please give us a moment as we open up the charts. All right, ladies and gentlemen, picking up with Bitcoin, since we got the big pullback we've been looking for. Mr. Tucson, we came right into our zone. And it depends where we close here. Could this be the beginning of a measured bounce and set up the big move up here to the 150 area, which we talked about over 3 years ago? And do we push it out to the extreme up toward that 178? I need to adjust that just a little bit because we do have a new swing point low at this point. So now we're talking 150. 155, maybe 173. Is this going to be the bounce and we go up? Maybe. But if we don't hold this all-important zone, it's possible we could come down and retest this 75 area, which we did so in April when we got that pullback. But what I do like about Bitcoin to start off is that if you look at this bigger picture, we have very similar type of pullbacks on Bitcoin. The most recent ones, like this one here, is what basically we're seeing here, right? So they're somewhat close in proximity of their recent pullback, and it looks like that's what we're having again. These pullbacks, rally, pullback. Is this going to be the last push? Did Bitcoin dip enough to force all the shorts, in this case, to get rid of people in the longs here, get rid of them to bail, and then this thing goes ripping higher? I am still not convinced that this is the end of Bitcoin's run. We need to see price action to tell us, is this likely going to make a lower high, lower low, and we get the beginning of crypto winter? One thing Bitcoin has done since the halving, we have the 12 to 18 month run to all-time highs. That's still intact. And now we're exceeding in that area of the 18 months as we're getting into mid-November. So is this going to pull back and push into December, maybe going into January? Kind of change the trajectory that we've had the last 4 halvings or last 3+ halving. This is the 4th halving. Go back to the weekly, and we can see typically that's what it does. You get the halving, Bitcoin makes a run for 12 to 18 months. You get a pullback in a crypto winter. Next halving, 12 to 18 month run, pullback. Next halving, 12 to 18 month run. And oh, this doesn't look like much. So Bitcoin didn't do anything there. Remember, if you start to stretch that out, it's significant. It doesn't look like much. This is a weekly chart, but it is some substantial movement back in the day when you could see this thing went from basically nothing all the way up to $1,200. So it was still a big run in the first halving, and then you get the second halving, another big run. So even though it didn't look like much when I compress it, it's still significant moves from the halving, 12 to 18 month run, crypto winter low, next halving, 12 to 18 month run, crypto winter low, next halving, 12 to 18 month run, and rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. So this is why I'm not convinced that Bitcoin is done just yet. And this was kind of expected. Let me stretch that back out for you. This was kind of expected that we'd probably get a 618 retracement. We hadn't had one since this back in April. We've been grinding some smaller pullbacks, but stair stepping. And this does look 5 waves. Not the prettiest of 5 waves, but it still looks impulsive. And this was the first warning shot. Go back to the daily. Remember when I talked about this a while back? When we got this high, we had this pullback, we did a 618 retracement and failed. That was the first warning shot. We're going to break down lower. And this is where this target zone came in. We initially looked for us to make a new swing point low. We did that. And then we got a similar type of move as we did that move. We did it again on a smaller scale. And then we got the next push lower. So is this the bottom reversal? Look at this daily. This would be very important. See how this daily candle? Oh, snap. See how the daily candle is turning this doji, and it looks like if it ends at this little croquet hammer like this, and we close with a green hammer up here, that's a pretty good reversal sign as far as candlesticks are concerned. And I like the fact that it is bouncing out of this big support zone. So this is why I'm excited to say that if this does play out, and that's an if, that's why I can't call this 126 up here is the end, and this is the beginning of crypto winter. It could be, but holding the 618 and bouncing. Now, you want to look for signs that it's holding. One sign would be, obviously, you do from the recent high down to this current low, and you look for us to break above this area here, about 112, 240, 112, 113. Basically, I'd like to see us take out that swing point there. We start closing above this swing point, then it kind of sets the tone, 130, 135, etc. This is a measured bounce. If this holds, then it sets up your 3-point tool, which puts us up here in the stratosphere, up at this 150, 155, and typically it makes a move toward the 1618, which would put us about 170, right? Remember we kind of talked about that the last few weeks. If we get a pullback to this support zone and it holds, and we see a 5-wave up, 3-wave correction, and more bullish price action, then this looks like it wants to go in the neighborhood of the target we originally discussed, 150 to 170. It might even push the limits toward the upper end of this target. So can I guarantee that this is definitely the reversal from this point? No, but it's certainly a great area for Bitcoin to reverse. And this could be where that push lower, as we were discussing, this could have made enough people disgusted as it broke below 100,000 and kept going thousands and thousands and thousands lower that they finally bailed on their positions getting out. Now the big money steps in, buys, and this thing goes launching off as we see that final push. Remember, even though it's a little bit beyond the 12 to 18 months, the last cycle, we had one of those, right? The last time Bitcoin did this, and we got that prior all-time high, so I need to kind of move this way, but we had this big run up, 12 to 18 months post-tag, we ran up, and we got this massive correction, and then we made one final push. So that was a substantial correction back then, and this is what happened the last halving. We dropped roughly about 54%. And then we went on to make a new high. Well, let's put that into perspective. And we kind of got to zoom this in to give us a bigger picture. But what type of pullback did we have on this recent move? And from 126 down about this 92, we're only about 29%. So this is not unprecedented that Bitcoin during the big halving and you get the big run to all-time highs, you get a substantial pullback before the final push. So this might turn out to be somewhat similar, even though it wasn't quite as deep. So I'm still very bullish Bitcoin because, again, I don't think this is over until price proves it. And what do we need to see? A 5-wave up, 3-wave correction, and a continuation, right? So that's going to be critical. What we don't want to see is this high to this low. We don't want to bog down at the 618786 zone of this prior all-time high down to this recent low. We don't want to see a 3-wave correction into here and then stop and then get rejected. That would not be good. And if we see something like that, where we get a 3-wave correction, we stop here, and then we go on and break new lows, then it's very likely this is the end of the run. But this may not be the low just yet. We could get some sort of smaller correction and still get one last push. So what do you start to look for? You have to go to the lower time frames. Let's go to like a 15-minute. In a 15-minute, this is starting to look bullish. Just looking at that move up, a little correction and a continuation. So this is starting to look like, is this 3 waves and it's going to end and then we fizzle and go lower? Or is this going to continue where we get a 5-wave followed by a 3-wave? Well, you go down to a 15, well, that is the 15-minute. You go down to even a smaller time frame, and this looks kind of bullish up, corrective, and then was this the beginning of a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? And was this the little ABC? And now is this the continuation of another 5-wave up? Maybe. So the way we start to deter or understand if this is going to be a breakout, first things first, look at the Magic Fibo. We were breaking below, we retested, went lower, kind of held a little bit, we broke down, retested, failed again. So now we're climbing back above, and during this time, it looked like we were holding, we're breaking back above. That's good. We need to see that carry to the 15-minute. We tested the 15-minute before class, and then we pull back after hitting the 15-minute, pull back. Now we're trying to break back above. So if we can start to see the 5-minute hold and break above, the 15 break above, hold, and a lot of times you'll see this type of move where when you start to get above, you come back to retest to set the tone for continuation. But that's the beginning. 5 minutes breaking, 15-minute breaking. Next thing we got to do is go up and break the 30-minute, which is still a little bit higher to go. We start to see that, Emil. We get the 5 breaking above, the 15 breaking above. We break above the 30. We come back and retest and continue higher. Then we start looking at the 1 hour. It's even a little further. So we keep going. We break above the 1 hour. Then we start getting above the 4 hour, which is much higher, back about that 102. And we start breaking back above the 4 hour. Then it kind of sets the tone. This is a bottom reversal. Why that? Because from the recent high to low, that was the area we talked about, from the high to the low, we need to start getting back above that 618 off of that prior move. Sets the tone, you go a little bit higher. Then we start getting above this. That starts to get bullish. Then last but not least, we got to get back above the daily, which is up here at that big resistance zone. So if this is the beginning of a breakout, we need to see the momentum continue. It doesn't mean we just have to go straight up like a rocket and we have to get up here in a matter of days. No, this could take weeks and go into December, even into next year. It'll be a little bit different because from the original halving, that's going to be a little bit more in that 18-month time frame. But what's changed? Going into this new halving, a little bit has changed. We got all those ETFs, tons of ETFs. Now we got pension plans. We got a lot of things that were not available in the prior halvings that became available before this halving. And one big thing occurred on this halving that never happened before. Bitcoin broke an all-time high. Remember the FOMO series we talked about that looked for Bitcoin to go ripping into the halving? This would be FOMO because of the ETF approvals, etc. Well, that's never happened before where Bitcoin made all-time new highs before the halving. It was always 12 to 18 months post-halving. So a little bit has changed, but this doesn't mean that, oh God, this is the end. I shoulda, coulda, woulda. And it went from 20,000 when I kept telling you, buy, buy, buy. It's an opportunity. You know, trade at your own risk. I can't tell you what to do. Not a certified financial planner. No buy, sell to hold recommendations. It's not my job. But I can tell you what I'm doing, what I'm thinking, and what the technical picture is screaming that this thing was going to go ripping. We originally targeted 150. We got to 126 and change. I don't think this is over yet. This pullback is just a perfect pullback into the beautiful correction. And it's right to our measured bounce. The key is this has to hold, and not only hold, but give us a 5-wave up, 3-wave correction. Then we got to basically go up another 10,000, like actually 20,000, for us to get up to about 112 gain. Then it kind of sets the tone. Yeah, we're going to go breaking all-time highs. So this is way too early to call a bottom, just as it's way too early to say that that pullback represents the end of Bitcoin's run and we're going into crypto winter. Both are too early to say with high affinity that this is done and we're definitely going lower, or that this is done and we're definitely going higher, right? So you force price to prove itself. But I was willing to take a little gamble, and I bought some IBIT calls out to December 19th, I believe it is. And I went out of the money, so they were dirt cheap. So if they play out, great, just like the last Mara ones we talked about. We got in around $1, it topped out about $2, and then it tanked. So it doubled, took my profits, and then it went away quickly as Bitcoin continued to pull back. So is this an opportunity for IBIT? I got in at about 24 cents. It's roughly 28 cents. And that is the December 19th, 2025 66 call option. It's way out of the money, right? We're trading in the 50s right now. Let me go to IBIT. And again, I'm not telling you what to do. I cannot tell you that. That's not my job. But this is a risk I'm willing to take. It doesn't mean you have to take it. I'm not encouraging you to try this. All I'm saying is this is what I'm doing. It's similar to that measured bounce, just like Bitcoin's holding from the high to the low. We're right in that measured bounce zone. And if this plays out, then great. We can make a little money. If it doesn't, then I lose 24 cents per contract, well, $24 per contract. And I'm willing to risk it. You go out to eat, spend $100 easy. Especially if you go out and have a little bottle of wine or something with dinner, you can spend way more than that. So I'm willing to risk a outing for potentially making some return. So Emil, can I guarantee this is going to turn into a double like the Mara one did last month? No, I can't guarantee that, obviously. And could this be the beginning of a bounce? And look, we're at 52, and I did the 66 up here. That's way out of the money. Well, that's why it was so dirt cheap. And remember, when you're looking at calls, this thing does not have to go straight 66 and higher to start making money. This thing can make a run towards 60 and probably double in its value. It can go from 24 to 50, whatever cents very quickly. It doesn't have to go that much higher to probably get to 50 cents. But it's just something that I was willing to take. And this looks like a good area for IBIT to bounce off of to make that final push. And after this pullback, even if we get a little three-wave correction and this thing makes a move for a few dollars, that 24-cent call option, which is right now, according to my platform, 28 cents. I'm up 4 cents already. Woohoo, should I close it? That's a little percentage. That's not too bad, up 16% already. Was that something I should take advantage of? That's enter at your own risk. But again, that's the December 19th. Give us the monthly option on 66 call on IBIT. And could this thing go popping up there? Yeah, it certainly could. What did it do the last time we got this type of correction? High, low, it went right to the extensions. So we do the same type of thing again from the recent high to low. We're not even at the entry point yet, but you start looking at this and the 14481272 up here, so around 70. So imagine if this thing makes a run between now and the next month and it starts getting to those extensions, and those cheap call options are going to be worth a few dollars. Amen? But again, there's always risk involved with trading. There is no such thing as trading risk-free. Once you get to a position of authority, then you're basically risk-free. But with options, you got to get in there and take some risk at first. Worst thing can happen, it expires worthless and I lose my $24 a contract. Okay, I can live with that. Alrighty, so again, I can't tell you what to do, but that's just what's setting up. And this is a measured bounce, and this could be the beginning of something big. Or it could fizzle and go lower and fizzle out and I lose my $24 a contract. How about that? But also could double, triple, quadruple. So that's the risk of trading. That's what makes it fun and exciting too. All righty. All right, so let's continue. Let's jump into the markets. Started with Bitcoin. We'll go back to crypto and revisit, but this is just I wanted to start off because everybody's thinking, ooh, is Bitcoin done? Is that the end of the world? Notice ES. I kind of warned you last week. When we got the high to low, we bogged down in that 618786 zone. I said this looked like a 5-wave down. This is probably the beginning of an A, B, C. And lo and behold, Emil, where did we go to so far? Right to our targets. Recent low, off of that bounce, we broke the 618 back to the downside, went right to the extensions. This is why this extension retracement is so magically delicious. Just like Lucky Charms. Does it work out every time? No. But when you start to see a break below the 618, sets the tone when that candle body closed there. Highest percentage, we're going to go 6620, basically 66, and we made a low of 6603. Is this the end and a reversal here? It could. This certainly could be an area we reverse from. But if we don't get a bounce and start to get from the recent high to low, break this resistance zone, and we just retrace into here, and then we get another leg down. So maybe this idea, we got to come down one more flush to the Magic Fibo to bounce, might be what we need, or this could perhaps be the end and we go reversing from here. If you're going to buy and aggressively take something like this, then be sure you're in a position of authority, because this doesn't hold. We may need one more flush. One that really looks like we need to flush is NASDAQ, right? NASDAQ, from the recent high to low, we did reach the extensions just like ES. But if this doesn't hold down here and reverse, then we're likely going to get a push down to the Magic Fibo. So remember what we talked about with the software. And again, I did some maintenance on the computer and shut and restarted over the weekend and yesterday, and did some of that back and forth. So this ended up getting reset. But looking at the daily here on ES, I'm looking potentially to buy that PAI hook when it gets oversold. That's not a guarantee that this has to go all the way down a few more days. It could, All I could say is, Emil, what happens if we retrace a little further and we come toward the Magic Fibo and this is extremely oversold in the PAI hooks? I'm buying it, right? That's what I'm doing. I'm looking for a nice bounce off the Magic Fibo. Well, we could end up slingshotting and we don't get the daily to get all the way oversold and we go slingshotting and we go ripping. But this looks like the three-wave correction. The question is it over or do we need to go a little further? Personally, I would like to see this go a little deeper, let the daily cycle finish. And why am I leaning that way? Well, because our weekly time frame. Now, those of you not familiar with the MPA PE5 version 5.0 software, when a weekly PAI hook, so you got PAI hook, be red, blue, and green hook. You got steep slope, then the trend momentum. The only AI you need to know is price AI. And then right there, we got this, the trend momentum. So when we get a PAI hook and a trend momentum cross with slope, angle separation on a weekly time frame, that's highest probability means the lower time frame, which is what's lower than the weekly, the daily, is likely to get a cycle, right? What would a cycle look like? That is weekly hook cross steep slope angle separation equals a daily finishing the cycle. So last week when I saw the daily starting to engage up, I even said it based on the weekly hook and a cross, we're likely going to see this either go from a slingshot up to a slingshot down or engage, disengage, because the daily trying to engage up against the weekly with the weekly hook and a cross, the higher percentage play would be for this thing to finish cycling. And we're almost there. Red and blue's getting there. Money flow's a little shy. And then trend momentum right there is a little shy. So this is why in this system, you can set this in advance. You go under your expert advisor properties, and you can set it up where all we want to do is buy a trigger long. You can click on these and do true false in there. Well, all we want to do is a trigger long. What is a trigger long? Trigger long occurs when the PAI is deeply oversold and the trend momentum is oversold. You get those little triggers. And that allows this to enter the trade. Like we got a trigger short up here. It was oversold, overbought, and then it triggered short. Now we're looking for this potentially go down and trigger long, and we type that in. When the PAI hook gets oversold and hooks up, when this goes down and hooks up, I want to buy it. Well, this automated system can do it for you by setting it ready to trade, clicking ready to trade mode, and this thing will sit here for days. Let's say it takes the rest of this week into early next week, and we just keep going lower and lower and lower, and we finally get oversold. We get oversold, then the PAI hooks, then we get the trigger back up. Fair enough? And that would be an entry. Just like we did with our euro dollar, pound dollar, etc. trades, we did the same type of thing. And we're up a little bit, up 118 pips from that recent reversal off of what? The daily. The daily did exactly that. It was oversold. We set that days and days in advance, waiting for that pullback. And we said once this baby triggered, it would enter automatically. It did that. We reached take profit one, and we're waiting to let this baby chop. Last few days it's been chopping. Is it going to continue higher? Is it going to come down and pip us out for more profit? Either way, now this is a risk-free trade now because not only did we take a profit, but our stop loss is in profit. That's the thing of beauty. And the same thing with the euro dollar. We're up about 108 pips, and the exact same thing happened here. We got the daily moving oversold, and we set this to buy when we got oversold, and we did what? We told it to buy the trigger long, and we got to a position of authority, and we're letting this baby continue to play out. So even if this thing continues to turn over and it stops us out for more profit, great. Book profits. You never go broke taking profits. And then if this stops us out for more profit, wonderful. We did this the last few times when the PAI hooked, rallied about 100 or so pips, got pipped out, rallied for 100 pips, got pipped out, and that's okay. That's the way I'm looking for this to bounce and go higher, as I expect the dollar to go lower. And even the dollar, the software did the same. We set this to take that trade in advance, and the daily did the exact opposite. It was overbought. We got the trigger short, and we got in the position. We took a profit, and we're still grinding. So what happens? We could get pipped out for more profit, or this thing could do what? Engage, disengage, and allow this thing to keep breaking down. Is this the end of the correction? Coming back into a resistance zone? We've been in a downtrend. We chopping for a while. Do we make another lower low? Maybe. I'm in a position of authority to take that trade for what it's worth. Even if it pips me out for more profit, it still was a winning trade. So am I guaranteeing this thing's going to pip me out? Could, but I don't care because profit was already taken and we're in a position of authority. And if it does continue to go lower, then we'll look to take profits further down as we go and make new lows. Great. Well, if that happens, that euro and pound trade's going to go up several hundreds more pips. As this goes down a few points, those other ones will go up several hundred pips. Got it? All right. But that's just looking at the cycles that are setting up and looking at the big picture on ES and NQ. This looks like we may be getting ready for a bounce and reversal. I said it last week, whether we kind of just pull back and bounce from there, get to a position of authority. And I warned you when this thing bounced, I said, definitely be in a position of authority because that looked impulsive. So we need a 3-wave correction out of this. Question is this the end of that and we go bouncing now? Or do we finish that daily cycle down, let the PAI hook up from oversold territory, let the software buy it at that point, and look for the extension to go higher? Yeah, I'm looking to buy a dip. I even said it in our class that look for ES, the markets, Bitcoin, etc., to go down, and then look to buy the dip and then bounce. Question is this it? Or is it going to be down here? Well, back to the software for NASDAQ. It's very similar, and I got a little sidetracked on this, but I wanted to show you what it looks like when it's monitoring and running your trades for you. NASDAQ's in the same boat. We have the daily pushing is getting closer oversold than ES is. Still got a little something left. Why do I think this is a likely potential that we finish this move lower? Because we got the same weekly hook and across with steep slope angle separation. So, Emil, there are times when you get the hook and across and the daily typically highest of highest probability, like our 618 breaks going up to the 1448, 1272 extensions, 75 plus, you get 75% to 1448, 70 plus percent, we go to 1272. Well, this is up there in that same type. When you get a weekly hook and across with steep slope angle separation, the likelihood the daily cycles, because it's the lower time frame, is very high. And let me change this. You can't see it behind my arrow machine, but I come over here to indicator list and I go up to our price magnifier and we edit this and we say instead of being in the left lower corner, we want to put it over here in the right lower corner. So all you do is change that number 2 to a 3. Change that to a 3, and then you say okay. And lo and behold, it's now over here, but it's the same thing. Weekly, hook, cross, slope, angle separation equals what? Highest probability the daily is going to get oversold. We're almost there. So I'm looking to buy this dip. So what do? You go into your expert advisor, you set your properties, and you tell it what to do. You look at stop loss, take profits. You look at what I'm trying to do. I want to buy a trigger long, true, nothing else. I don't want to trigger short, don't want to slingshot long, don't want to slingshot short. I want this thing to finish the cycle, then buy it. Right there, buy D1 PAI hook from oversold territory. What's oversold territory? When you get to the green, you start thinking about a buy. When you get to the red, you start thinking about a sell. When is that done? When the PAI hooks, when you're in overbought territory and the PAI hooks down, potential sell. When you get the PAI hook oversold and it hooks back up, that's a buy. And I can tell this thing automatically to buy that when it does get to that point, just like we did the euro, pound, dollar, etc. And then the sell on the dollar index, it entered automatically. And you just click this ready to trade mode. And again, this could sit here today, tomorrow, Wednesday, maybe it's Friday when this PAI hooks. We trigger long, or it could be tomorrow when this turns. We shall see. But that's kind of the plan. And Emil, we did talk about this. If we can get down here near the Magic Fibo, that would be an ideal place for us to buy that. We get down there, we get down here, we're oversold, and my PAI hooks, I'm buying it. But what am I going to do when I buy it? Just like I did the euro and the pound, etc. I'm going to get to a position of authority so that if it just bounces and then it goes even lower, maybe the daily goes up to slingshot lower and the weekly continues to push lower, fine. But I can get to that position of authority and make some profits. And this could be the beginning of a bounce, Santa Claus rally going in the early first quarter maybe. We get the blow off top, and that fits with what we've been discussing. I still think we're going to get the blow off top scenario whether we get to the end of the year, first quarter, timing is the hardest. I'm just not convinced this is the end of the all-time high, and then the rest is all doom and gloom, and we go into Elizabeth, I'm coming to join you, honey, and the markets crash, and here we come. I think that's later. I still think we're going to get one more push into the extremes. Blow off top. Everybody good? So, set it, forget it, let it run. Or if we start bouncing here, when do we know it's pretty much a foregone conclusion? This is a bounce that's going to do something. Well, it's simple. Use your 2-point tool, and I'll zoom this way in for you. And I'll move this for the moment, just because it's in the way, but we reach the extensions down here. This could be a point where we bounce and go reversing. Won't say that it's impossible. Sure, it could happen, but it's just thinking it might need to come down here. And what happens when you do a 3-point tool here? 3-point tool, recent high to the low, to this lower high. Look at where that comes out. Here's my move right here, 23.6. Look at where my top of my Magic Fibo is, 23.6. See it? And this is sloping upwards, even though we've been correcting from the prior up move, sloping upwards. So is it likely that maybe the daily needs to finish the cycle down and we need to go a little bit deeper? We would not be surprised. So if you are taking a bounce off of this low and you're up a few points, definitely be in a position of authority. What type of bounce are we looking at? Well, you go back to the software, and some people like to scalp instead of waiting for the daily to keep pushing lower and then bounce. Maybe somebody likes to go to a 4-hour. And when a 4-hour starts the PAI hook, maybe we buy a little bounce off of that, right? Same thing on a different time frame. If you do buy something like that, when this PAI hooks and triggers long, and you want to buy that, be sure you get to position of authority, okay? So I'm not trying to tell you, yeah, you should be buying this bounce. It possibly could bounce off of this. Check it out. We got some massive support zone, and there's a couple of levels in there. But looking at where we are, we bounce from that area dip below, bounce right back. So this is a support zone, no question, that it could bounce off of this, but is this the one that goes breaking out? Or does the 4 hour do what it did last time? Kind of bounce a little bit and then slingshot lower, allowing the daily to finish. So I'm not trying to say, hey, you should be buying this bounce because this is the beginning of the big one. No, I much prefer to let the daily finish the cycle, then buy it. So, in my humble opinion, I would not be surprised that this isn't the end and we just kind of bounce a little bit and stair step lower, maybe the next few days while the daily finishes that cycle down. And then we get a bounce down here off of the Magic Fibo. That would be ideal, in my humble opinion. Got it? So, is this over? Maybe not. We are in that somewhat of a resistance slash support zone. We're right in that area we've been testing. Right, see it? And I know I got red arrows in there, but I'll remove them. We're right in that zone. So could this be the beginning of support, or do we need to get the last push? Because the weekly has a hook and a cross and the daily's not quite finished all the way, I'm willing to, if it does dip further and drop, say, another 100 points, well, that's more than 100. That would be about 1,000 points, 500 points ish. We get another 500 push lower. We're down 372 today. Sounds like a lot, but with the NASDAQ, this thing could push down and bounce. Theoretically, it could flush out real quick today, but it'll probably be another few more days. I like a few more days because the daily could finish the down cycle on the software, then reverse. But we've been looking for this for quite some time for the daily retracement, hitting the Magic Fibo, and we didn't do that since the liquidation day, or what was it called? The tariff day, and then we got the reversal. So we hadn't broken below that, and before that, it was back in September we bounced off of it. And then before that, we dipped and checked it in August and continued. So this could be very much so a perfect opportunity to come back and retest that Magic Fibo to set off that blow off top. Amen? ES basically the same. If we don't hold the support zone, then expect we're going to come down here. The daily reverses, I'm buying it, looking for an opportunity to go into the upper 6,900 slash 7,000, maybe 7,200 zone. Kind of appears where I think the blow off top will go. So do we dip here, then get there? Or do we start reversing now? Either way, up and until price proves from the recent high to low, we got to break this resistance zone, which is what? My 618,786 zone. So you stretch that out, zoom that in. Is this bounce is going to mount to something? Then from the recent high to low, use a 2-point tool. High to low, we got to start getting above this 618 up here. Amen? And we got this one here. We can take that from the original higher, the high, that high to this low. Then my 618 is up here about 6,800. We break that, then there's your 7,000-ish target. In the short term, from that high to this low, we got to break 6,700, basically 6,800, and then set the tone for 940, 98, 6940, 6980. So if this is going to be a reversal, we need to see this thing start closing above this resistance box. Then we can start targeting new highs. Any questions? In the short term, would not be surprised to see this thing dip just so the daily software can set up to get that PAI hook and set up the much bigger bounce and blow off top. Fair enough? And last but not least is same thing with the Russell. We're already at the Magic Fibo. We're already in oversold territory. So you basically do the same. Expert advisor, properties, and it should already be set where we have buy the trigger long true. And then all we got to do is click ready to trade. And when this baby starts to officially hook, it's turning. It's not there yet. It is oversold, oversold. So this does meet the criteria to get a trigger higher, like last time. But typically you need this PAI to hook. Set the trigger, and is that the next bounce? Could be. This is already at the Magic Fibo. Well, that doesn't mean we're definitely going to reverse from here, because what if the ES and the NASDAQ go down a few more days? This thing could keep going lower. This thing can kind of ride out lower like it did over here, just kind of riding out till finally it hooks. And it lasted several days during that period, just kind of grinding lower several days. This is a daily. And then it finally hooked. Got it? So I'm willing to set these, look for the bounce. Well, what's the upside on this one? The upside on IWM, the way to trade the Russell, IWM is for the for IWM. The target is this prior move here from the recent high down to the low. We're targeting 256, 265 area. So do we bounce off the Magic Fibo and going up there, or do we go a little lower, then we get the bounce? But I'm still looking for an opportunity as we get blow off tops. When is it ready to start thinking, uh-oh, this might be the big one? Elizabeth, I'm coming to join you, honey. Here comes the big one. That would be when ES is up around that 7,000 area, 7,200, 7,000. NASDAQ is up at the 27,000 area, and IWM is up here at that 256 to 265 area or higher. The Dow, I think, should be closer to 50,000, and the Dow's giving us a correction. Remember when this was breaking out the other day? What did I say? Dow may need to do exactly the same thing. Get a retracement back toward the Magic Fibo to bounce before its final push. But those are some of the bigger parameters I'm looking for. So be careful. I still think there's more downside to come. I still think there's more downside. Then we get the bounce, as these are all setting up for their cycles to finish and then reverse. That's what I'm looking to buy. Amen? All right. So in closing, is this likely to bounce from this area? It could. Don't get me wrong. This ABC could be finished, and maybe we go a little bit more. Well, here's the Dow. How do I know where's a good place or a practical place for this to return? Use your 3-point tool. We had the high, we had the low, and this looks like an expanded flat correction where we got a higher high. This looks like we're already pushing the extreme of a 1618 to the downside. So this is likely setting up one more push. Probably going to push us down here toward that 45 area. Amen? So be careful. If you think you're going to buy this falling knife and it's not going to go lower, I still think it's going to go lower first. Then we're going to look for the bounce. So Magic Fibo would be a great area for us to come to touch and bounce off of. Got it? Any questions? And from the recent low to high, you can remove all these lines to show you what that looks like. And where's the Dow coming to, just like the rest of the markets? From that recent low up to the current high, we broke the 618786 up here, and where did we go? 1448, 1272, like clockwork. And if we start closing below this, then we're likely going to come toward this 45.3 area, and my Magic Fibo is sloping upwards. So this is why I still think there's a little bit more downside. Then we look for the bounce. Okay? And this could last a few more days, certainly. Took 3 days, maybe another day or two. Maybe today's the day we dip down a little further. Maybe we go tomorrow or rest of this week, then we start bouncing. But that's what I'm looking for the software to reverse, PAI hook and reverse up. I typically use the daily. I like to be in trades a little bit longer than intraday type of trades, but you just use lower time frames. And then you get to your position of authority, and then you got a no risk trade. And if it continues in your favor, you let the winning trade run. If it reverses and pips you out, then you got money and you wait for the next setup. So in closing, ES, Harold, I think we got a better shot as we're extending this area. We're probably going to come down to Magic Fibo. And again, just to reiterate why, let the software finish their respective cycles. There's NASDAQ. Here's the, this way, S&P 500. Let them finish their respective downtrends. Why? The weeklies had a hook and a cross, steep slope angle separation, daily cycle down. Then I look to buy. All right? That's what the software is kind of telling us. And more importantly, the technical picture is setting up that same type of process where we could come to the Magic Fibo and look for a potential bounce right off that Magic Fibo. That would be a good area to find support as the daily's reversing and ready to turn back up. And just like the last time, we got a nice little rally out of that. You can make several points, be in a position of authority. But remember what we discussed on this original pullback and bounce. I was like, Harold, man, this looks a little 5 waves. So the likelihood that this is breaking out to all-time new highs and continuation, it could, but it's probably unlikely. We went right into the danger zone and we reversed. High, low, lower, high. And where did we reverse to? Right to the extensions. So again, I can't say this cannot possibly reverse from here. Sure it can. That 4 hours oversold, we're probably going to get a little intraday bounce. And then it could sell off, but I'm prefer to get that daily oversold and then buy. Get the bigger move up. Fair enough? All righty. So what about Nikkei? Nikkei looks like it wants to come down a little further as well from the recent low up to the high bounce. We broke the 618786 and now we're breaking toward the extensions down here. So this 47.9, another few hundred points down to 47.3, maybe this 47 area would be a potential area where our liquidity, why do we look at the Nikkei? It's global liquidity. Maybe we get down here to bounce. But remember what I told you last week, or maybe even the week before, that if this comes down to this area and these extensions, our markets are likely going to be right at their Magic Fibos. So we're not to the extensions yet, and this hasn't reached that target. But if this continues to push lower, that's going to push our ES lower. It's going to push our NASDAQ lower, the Dow lower, etc., IWM lower, and maybe we get there. The only one that's touching the Magic Fibo is close is the IW. ES is not there yet. NASDAQ is not there. Obviously, excuse me, the Dow's not there. Just to quickly show you what that looks like. ES, we're not quite there yet. NASDAQ, we're not quite there yet. IWM, we're almost there, very close. And Dow, not quite there yet. So maybe this is the trifecta or the quadruple, whatever, quad, where all of them, IWM gets there, NASDAQ gets there, Russell gets there, Dow gets there, and this Nikkei continues to drop towards this target. Well, what if this thing actually comes way down here? Then our markets not only are going to reach their Magic Fibo, but I think they'll break below the Magic Fibo if this declines that far. So what I said last week, right, Harold, if we can get down in the zone here, then expect our markets like ES, NASDAQ, Dow, Russell, etc., would all be very close and getting closer to their magic Fibo. Look at the difference here. We're at 48. We got to go over 4,000 points to get to the magic Fibo here, where ES, we only need to go 100 and change to get there. 64, yeah, about 100-ish. NASDAQ, we got to go like 1,000 instead of 4,000. I mean, big difference. See it? So in closing, again, I think we're going to get pushed lower just so the daily can finish the cycle on the software, and then we can buy it when the PAI hooks and price comes down. So Gary, what if price comes down and my PAI hooks before we actually touch this thing? I'm buying it when the PAI hooks, right? But what are we talking about? When this PAI finishes and turns up, I'm buying it right there, buying it. So regardless if we officially touch the magic Fibo or we're, say, at the bottom of the Ichimoku cloud and it's hooking up, or we're a little bit below it near my moving average here, we're down there and it's hooking up, then I'm buying it. When is the key common denominator? When this baby turns and hooks back up, I'm going to buy the dip. And that's what we meant by this quite some time ago when I said here last Thursday, expect markets, Bitcoin, to go lower than bounce. Well, when is the bounce? That's, in my humble opinion, is going to be when this daily PAI hooks. Okay? And likely going to be when we get to the magic Fibo. So whether you're looking at it in NinjaTrader, which the software is available on, or you're looking at it in any platform, look for the magic Fibo to come into play, and the software in MetaTrader, NinjaTrader gets oversold, PAI hooks. That's a good buying opportunity to get to your position of authority. All right. So any questions on the markets and where we think it's going? I did review a moment ago at the beginning of class, Harold, was the Bitcoin, but I'll go back over it because I'm going to still do crypto. But let's continue. What about Black Gold Texas Tea, the Beverly Hillbillies? Black Gold. There it is. Black Gold. I think I already have it over here. Let's see. Is it that one? Yes. Black Gold. I definitely still think we're going to break down to new lows. No ifs, no buts, no ands. That's in my humble opinion. But is this correction need one more push? Then we do it? Or do we just start to break down and go? End result, recent low up to the high. We broke the 618 weeks ago. We broke the 786 weeks ago. And we've been chopping since we broke below it. We have not reached our extension. We're still sitting at a 75+% chance we're going to 52, 70+% chance we're going to 49. Basically, that's my 50 target. So I would prefer to see this thing rally up in the here, fail, then go plummeting. Bottom line is 75% chance we're going to 52, 70 plus, we're going to basically 50, 49. So that's what I'm looking for. And that series I was talking about, Landman, just premiered, the new season premiered yesterday, Sunday night. So any of y'all want to look at that, it's a good show on Paramount. Billy Bob Thornton, Demi Moore, several people are in it. Ali Lauder, several folks are in it. And it's pretty good, but it's talking about the oil industry and drills and that price needs to be in the 60s for drill baby drill to be able to function. When price gets above 90 or higher, all goods and services start to escalate. And that's what happened while we had high inflation when our oil prices were so high. Now we're drilling back down. And when we start dipping in below 60, then, which I still think it's going to do it, they can't drill baby drill when they're losing money. So what happens? Oil prices spiked. Last time we dipped that low, rockets went off in the Middle East. And we did a quick reversal from the mid 50s to the mid 70s, mid to upper 70s. Am I expecting some very quick kind of response? Yeah, but we still got to get down here. So in the short term, can we get the rally? I would prefer this to rally higher just so we can get what I'm looking to do, and I'm already in it. I bought some SCO, nibbled, when we had the prior dip. And now I'm looking to add to that position if we can get one more push lower. And is this part of A, shopping B, and we need one more little push because oil's got to pop one more time. When black gold pops, SCO will drop. When black gold goes tumbling down, SCO is going to go popping. When was the last time we saw a big pop on this? Was when oil prices plummeted down to 55 bucks. This thing went boom, shot up. So it's an easy way to buy a leveraged product, ultra shorts. So what that means is when oil prices go plummeting lower, this SCO is going to go ripping higher. So I bought some shares already, and I'm looking to buy more shares. I got a good till cancel order down here about 1750, and man, did we just miss it a few times to add more to my position. Missed it just by a few hairs. This one by 6 cents, 1756 right there. So yeah, if this thing goes lower, I'm gonna add to position. So when oil prices go tumbling down to 50 and lower, then this thing ought to go spiking several dollars. And it doesn't sound like a lot. You have 500 shares and we go spiking $5. That's a nice little chunk of change, 2,500 bucks. I'll take it. No problem. So that's definitely some major beer money if you drink a little beer or several bottles of wine or several dinners out with your loved ones, whatever. But look for this. If oil prices can rally that one last time, is this the A, the B, and we need the last push? Because that looks pretty impulsive on that bounce, right? That looks pretty impulsive, and this looks overlapping corrective. So typically, if we're in that downtrend, we typically need a three-wave move. Now, I'm not telling you, Mr. Tucson, I guarantee, my friend, it is going to pop from 59-ish up to about 64, 63-ish, 64, and make a pop-up here. All I can say when it does, I'm buying more SCO for when this thing gets thwarted, or a Kim Olajuwon style. When you go up into the center and you're trying to get to the basket, he'll slap it away, and this will get knocked back down to these targets. And worst case scenario, this thing just keeps plummeting lower, and then the position I already have on this, I'll make some little less money because I want to add more. But yeah, that's the plan. No buy, sell, to hold recommendations. You know why? It's not my job. I'm just telling you the technical picture says we're definitely going lower. Everything about this says we're going lower. And just to remind you, back in May of 23 over here, when this bottom occurred and we started to see this overlapping chopping action, I kept saying we're getting lower highs. We got a lot of overlapping action. We're going to need a new swing point low to correct all this overlapping chopping action. We finally got it down to 55. I said when we break that, I thought we'd go to 50 that time. We stopped at 55. But if you kind of zoom in from this prior low. We got a bounce, we chopped, then we ripped higher. Big pullback, lower high, pullback, lower high, pullback, lower high, pullback, lower high, and then we finally broke to new lows. Well, notice this type of move here, lower high, right there. We rallied big, pullback, lower high, pullback, lower high. What does that look like now? Since this low, pop, chop, rip, pull back, lower high, pull back, lower high, pull back. And that's why I'm still looking for one more little lower high, maybe come retest that Magic Fibo. And then we get spanked down into 50 and lower. Bingo. So this still says the same thing it said way back in 2023, that all this overlapping chopping action said we needed a new swing point low. Well, this most recent duplicate type of action kind of says the same thing. We need one more swing point low. And that is my 52 to 50 area. That's why I say 50 and lower. Got it? Today, tomorrow, I'd love to see one more rip higher, finish that, then go plummeting lower so that my SCO can go dipping down. And I got some resting on 1750, 17, 16. I got several down here waiting to buy more and more shares because I expect that we're going to get one of those. When oil finally plummets to 50 and lower, this baby is going to go popping. And does it mean it has to go above 24? No. But depends on where we are. If we're down here at 17 or 16, and then we go popping, all it's got to do is pop into the 20s. And that's significant pop. And like I said, 100 shares, it pops $6. That's $600. You got 1,000 shares, it moves $6, that's 6,000. Not trying to tell you what to do, but that's just, I expect oil to drop and I expect SCO to pop. And because it's shares, it doesn't matter if it takes today, tomorrow, next week, or next month, or even into 2026, I still get my return on investment. Got it? So in closing, yes, I think, Dan, we're definitely, in my humble opinion, going down to 50 and lower, 52 and lower. Kind of said 50. That's the plan. But do we get this last pop? And when I start drilling down lower time frames and looking at what price action has been showing, zoom in on that daily price action, that looked pretty impulsive, right? That looked pretty impulsive. This kind of looks like a 5 wave, does it not? 1, 2, 3, actually 3 up here, 4, 5. And this is part of the ugly overlapping type of B. So this is probably that impulsive move up, my A wave. All of that ugliness is the B wave. I need one more push back into the area of A for the C. And once we get the A, B, C complete, what? New swing point low. And that drop from up here around 64 down to over $10. Remember, 52 is kind of the minimum. It's way over here for you to show you that. But I got to condense it. That's 52, 48. That would be quite a move from, say, 64 down to 50, $14. What does a $14 move do on SCO? That makes that baby go squirting. So you can see back in the day when we had this swing point low up to there, it made roughly, let me adjust that so I can get my percentage up there. It made roughly almost a 48% move. 48% move. And that was from April up until late April. So that was actually March, end of March, beginning of April, up until the 10th or so of April, that big spike. what did this do at the same time? That was this spike over here, April, January, April, there it is. So this move right there caused SCO that spiked down from 70 to 50, well, 70 to 55. So that spike down caused SCO to spike up about almost 50%. So what if we get something like that again, that same type of move, and we can use this little deal here. If we get a duplicate type of move, that high down to that low, that type of move. So we come up here to 64, and that would put us about 48, kind of fits the mold, right? A little bit dipping into the $50 move, and that would be a spike of about 50% on SCO. And what does 50% look like? Let's say we get to 16, for example. 1750, let's kind of round it off, 17, and we do a 50% move. See where we're going, Harold? 50% move. I think I already got it on here for that move. Watch. 47, I think it was like almost 48. That put us about 25, maybe even make a new high. Not bad. Not bad. So that's my plan. I nibbled. I have some resting orders, good till cancel orders. Buy some more shares at 50. Buy, more shares at 1750. More at 17, more at 1650, more at 16. So if it can dip down that far, if we can get oil to spike up to that 64, I think we'll dip into this zone, and I'll have probably, the plan is to have a few hundred shares of this, or hundreds of shares anyway, and look for this to go popping when oil prices go dropping. Okay? All right. But that's the plan. What about yellow gold? Still very concerned with Mr. Yellow Gold. We kind of did our drop, we warned you about, and then we retraced into the resistance zone. So this is looking a little more chopping and overlapping than I would like. So if we get any type of rally, I don't think this is yellow gold breaking out. That's black gold. This is yellow gold. I don't think this rally would be us breaking out. It might be this setting up for an A, B, C, really, because of this overlap, more like a W, X, and a Y. And then we would get the continuation. So I'm not convinced that this low is the last low we're going to see. Not even close. I think we need to come down toward the Magic Fibo. That would be more ideal. Is this the three-wave correction and it's over and we're breaking down? Maybe. Or even if we get this type of move, Randy, where we get this correction and we get this as part of an A or a W, and this down move is the X or B, and we get one more push, making a slight new higher high over here, C or Y. Either way, if we get this type of rally up here, I still don't think that's the breakout and gold's going to continue with this massive run up. I still think we need another push lower. Why is that? Well, you know where we're going. We do it always, about the software. And we go to gold. There's gold in them there hills. And we had a weekly PAI hook, trend momentum cross. We had steep slow. We had angle and separation. So far, so good. And when a weekly hooks and cross, what do we typically expect? The daily is likely to run to oversold. Now, the PAI did not make it. Red and blue did, but look at money flow. It never finished the cycle. and the trend momentum made it. But a cycle is the PAI and the trend momentum, at least trend momentum 1. In this case, trend momentum 1 and 2 did make it. Red and blue made it, but money flow did not. So I kind of warned you about this last week, that this slingshot up may turn into a slingshot down, allowing this to finish the cycle again. And we get that last push down toward the Magic Fibo, and then we bounce. So I'm still looking to buy the daily PAI hook from oversold territory. And when that happens, I'm going to get to a position of authority in case the daily does this. We go down, we hook up, and you think we get that bounce. Is this the breakout to all-time highs again? Or do we slingshot lower so that weekly can continue to push lower? But that's why when I see that, I set it to where I get to my position of authority. Amen? And that's when you get to break even +1, take a profit, or at least move your stop loss in the profit. So that trade, no matter what it does, it reverses and pips you out. You're pipped out for profit. If it rips higher, then you can continue to make money. Fair enough? So I do expect gold to go much higher in the weeks, months, and years to come. I don't think this is the end, but I don't think this impulsive move down is the end of the correction. I think there's more to come. Fair enough? And because the software, with that weekly hook and a cross, hook, cross, slope, angle separation, dictates highest percentage, this daily needs to finish the cycle, and we didn't quite finish the cycle based on what that green money flow was. And you can see red and blue made it to that level. Trend momentum's made it to that level. Who didn't? Green money flow. So I warned you about a slingshot up to a slingshot down, looking for this to push in that basically A, B, C bigger correction. Then we can look to buy when the daily's oversold. So clean that up, do a fresh one. When this gets oversold, this gets back in oversold, and this baby hooks up, I'm going to look to buy the dip and then get to a position of authority. Silver, still think is more or less the same. We got the impulsive move down, looks more three-wave even though it extended. And then I warned you when it was going, this was probably not a breakout. We probably need to go lower. And could this be the bigger complemented like a WXY, WX, and we still need further down? That is the plan. Even if this new low starts off where that three-wave move is a W, and this abrupt move down is the X, and we got one more push, Y, still looking for this to come down, for this to finish the cycle. Amen? Same thing. Why? Rinse and repeat. We got a weekly hook, we got a weekly cross, we got steep slope, we got angle separation, and my daily did not cycle down. Why? Because red and blue made it, yeah, but money flow did not. And trend momentum 1 and 2 basically made it, but who didn't? Money flow, the green line. So I'm still looking for this to get oversold, this to push oversold, and this to grind. Even if it pops, I'm going to sell the rally again, looking for that to push lower, the daily to get oversold, and then when it's oversold, including money flow, we'll buy the PAI hook like over here, over there, when they're all oversold, and buy the dip. Amen? All righty. There you have it. So even on this bigger picture, I like to show on here, silver, look at the big picture. Where we're going. Mr. Tucson, we're going to the moon, Alice. To the moon. From this high to that low, we broke the 618, we broke the 786. We have not reached our 5560, and I made not a prediction. Everybody predicts. The weatherman, every Tom, Dick, and Harry out there, and any service whatsoever. My predictions, like there's some prophet. That's for the prophets. I am just a God-given talent to read and interpret price, and I have a high affinity for knowing where price is headed. And that is a God-given talent, and we're going to go 60-70. This is an area we're going to reach. In my humble opinion, no ifs, no buts, no ands, no exceptions. Silver will reach 60 to 70. In the big long-term position, it's actually conservative. Why? Silver's in everything from chips. We got drones. We're going to have quantum computers that are going to use a lot of silver. AI is using silver. Jewelry, you name it, everything uses silver. It is a finite amount of silver out there. So supply and demand says you have high demand and low supply. What happens to price? Rips. So what I really like about this, look at gold. You can go back in our archives. And back in the day, in 2011, 2012, around then, I made a bold statement, again, not a prediction, that I said that this 1900, we're going to go down $1,000, and it went down 1,000 and change, around $1,000 range before we then break out to 3,000. Wow. I didn't know it would take from 2015 all the way to, by the time it hit 3,000, somewhere over here into 25, but it still happened. The technical picture screamed this. Well, that's what I kept saying when we got up here to the nosebleed section and did extensions higher than I was really looking for before the pullback. I was looking for the pullback deeper here, and we shot up. But the same thing, I warned you about a correction there, did a 400-point drop. I warned you about it here, did a 400-point drop, and this one I don't think is finished. But notice, from that high to that low back in 11, we're already pushing the 3.618 slash 4.236 levels, those extensions in the nosebleed section, and the Bob Euchre seats up here for those baseball fans. And you look at silver, and silver in the same boat, we barely just broke all-time highs. We're not even reached yet the 1448 or the 272. But what if silver tries to catch up with gold and push the 1618, the 272, the 2618, start pushing toward the 3618, 423? That's up here around 150 to 170. Now you can see why my $60, $70 target zone is conservative. Amen? Conservative. So, back to current price action. The weekly hook and across, the daily hadn't finished the cycle. I warned you about a correction. Even as silver went ripping back up, I said, be careful. This thing is likely still to give us a push. All I can say is we get the push down in here. I'm adding to position and looking for this thing to go ripping higher into 27, well, 26, 27. This thing's going to start ripping to that 50, 60, 60, 70 target and then some. All right? Any questions? So I like to play silver, other than going to Costco and buy a silver bar, is to play a little SLV ETF. And I'm still looking for the similar type of move. This looked impulsive. We probably need one more push. And if we can get down anywhere in that $40 or lower, that's a good opportunity to add to the position for this thing to go where? Minimum 60/70. When's the time frame? That's why I buy shares. It doesn't matter. It could be today, it could be tomorrow, which it won't, but it could be, 2026, 2027. It's still going to go from the 30s to the 60s, 70s, and that's conservative. So be careful as you zoom in, whether I'm looking at SLV, silver, futures, whatever. This looked very impulsive. Straight down, right? Kerplunky. Look very impulsive. And typically you don't have an uptrend, get a straight impulsive move down, and then you just trend continuation. You typically get a 3-wave correction, and that's a 5. So this could be the A. A three wave stretch three looking wave could be the B. And we're working on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to come back down. I got to kind of push it this way. And let me do that again. This looks like a 5, 3, and this could be the 5. That's a 1. We go up in 2, kind of retest the rejection zone, get a 3, a 4, a 5, and we come back down toward this magic Fibo. The daily finishes the cycle, the daily PAI hooks, and I look to buy that. All right, so buy the dip. And what are we shooting for? 60/70. No matter how low we go, 60/70 is where we're looking for. Amen? All righty. So we in it. I told you about silver umpteen long time ago. Long time ago. So I think I have it on this one. Is it silver? Yeah. Ever since we got that COVID shutdown low, and I was like, dude, silver went to this low, ridiculous price. This is the perfect time to buy. And it shot up. Then we got this correction. And for the last several years, I talked about a monthly cycle up, continuing to grind. And we shot for a target of 35, then 41, and then some. Still in it to win it. Where's the target up there? 62 area. I'm looking for that 60/70. And this is part of the correction. The monthly starting to turn. My weekly gave us a hook and a cross. Same thing we already talked about, different platform. This one is the JFD demo. Not to tell you which one you should open. Any MetaTrader 4 platform. Doesn't matter who the broker is. Got the weekly hook and a cross. And my daily has not finished that move down. Kind of got a little closer in this platform, but still didn't get it. So I'm not convinced this is ready to go blasting off. Well, will it hurt me to continue to go higher? No, I'm expecting that. I just want to see a deeper correction to reset, and then I'll probably add, like I've been talking about, add to position for more upside. Amen? But that would be ideal. So we do get the dip further if this is part of that impulsive 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this part of that correction. And now we got the ABC, and now we're looking for what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We come lower. This is oversold. That's oversold. We turn and hook. Add some position there, whether it's at 40 bucks, 30 bucks, depending on which one you're trading. SLV and silver, about $5, $4 difference between silver futures and SLV, or just straight up silver price. See the difference? So that's why some of these, when I say 40 and lower, well, this one, I'd love to see it get to 40 and lower. The silver one, as you look up here, we may not get to 40. We might get to 42, where the up at the top of that magic Fibo is. And this thing's sloping upwards. So on silver, we might only get down here around 42, 43 area might be the low. And then futures, kind of similar, that we're sitting here roughly in the same place, 42, 41 area is where the magic Fibo is sitting. So maybe we only get to that 42, 41 area where SLV can get down to that 38, 37 area. See it? See the difference? Magic Fibo 38 to 37. Futures 42, basically 41. Silver 42, basically 41. Similar as silver and silver futures. There you have it. So be careful with any rally. I would not be buying this except for long term going that 60, 70 target. But in the short term, that looks impulsive. This looks corrective. So in my humble opinion, price is screaming, we need one more flush before we continue higher. All right, there you have it. Let's continue. What about the dollar index? Kind of flip the script. We always go dollar index first. Well, it's still grinding. It's still more or less holding this magic fibbo and bouncing a little bit. Is this going to go breaking out? Maybe. If we go breaking this high, then we're probably going to push it toward that 102 big short squeeze that's sitting out there. What is that? Everybody short the dollar, and this is kind of the threshold of pain where there's a lot riding on that short trade that if we go hitting 102, this thing will probably go soaring higher into the stratosphere, making a push toward that 105, 107 area. We close above 102, I think we'll go up 3 points or so and push toward 105, 107. But we're still corrective. We're still in a downtrend. We haven't broken the downtrend, all of that. We have corrections, and it's been corrective, overlapping. So this could be a potential bottom reversal when we're ready to go up. But in order to call that with a high affinity, we got to get above this pink box to set the tone for us to go higher. And right now, we got to get above this 102 and hit the short squeeze for that thing to pop up there. So in the interim, be careful that I'm still in the position of authority on this. If my dollar keeps going higher and pips me out, then it was a winning trade. And what happens? We get up in this zone again. I'm going to look to sell it when the daily reverses. Right? Just like last time. In the worst case scenario, after taking profits, I can get pipped out. Right? So about 30-something pips, I can get pipped out. That's quite possible this thing goes higher. But that's why I told you when we took the short to take profits, be in a position of authority. Now, if this thing, the red hooks down, blue hooks down, and green hooks down, and we don't get pipped out for more profit, then we're likely going back to that low and make a new low. And I put a level on the chart, which is sitting here. If we can break 85.50 area, which is that extension, if we break 85.50 to the downside, which is right there, we break that, then we're likely going to make a new swing point low. So is this the beginning of this correction? We get a retracement and a continuation after this overlapping correction? Is this the beginning of just a B, C, and we come test this zone down in here? Then we go blasting off. It's a little ambiguous. We're stuck between resistance and support. We've been chopping between resistance and support for some time. But the bigger trend has been down for years, ever since we called it when it made this high around that 114 and change up here 3 years ago. When I said, let's go long the pound, let's go long the euro, that would make thousands of pips. So far, that was good because this did what it wanted. The question is this move that correction already? And that's part of that A, B, C, and that's over. And now we're trend continuation? Or is this going to be another fizzle, push lower? And we go out to the bigger picture, which is off of the weekly chart. This swing point low back here, are we going to make a 618 retracement? We shall see, right? We still got to make some lower lows, but that puts us closer and closer to my original target. I was looking for a 618, 786 type of retracement, a deeper retracement off of that bigger move. And lo and behold, let's see what happens. So, in closing, how this thing could go breaking out. The long of it is, we close and break this swing point high, we reach 102. I think if we start closing above this 101 area, 100 and change, then we're likely going to make a run up toward this extension. And if we close above 102, then I have no problem going long the dollar index for it to push up toward 105. Right? So we break this and we are able to close above 102. This would be a great entry. If we get there, we close above 102, then shoot for a 105 to 107 push. That's that short squeeze. But there's a lot of momentum up here to prevent that from happening. That's why if it does happen, we're looking for that big squirt higher. Got it? In the short term, I like breaking down more, but we're still holding. The next question is, you zoom in on the most recent price action. When can I start to get potentially bullish off of this down move and now this little bit of retracement? Well, you know what's coming. 2.2. That high to this low, we need to start getting, and it actually was already there. I see my numbers. We need to get above this zone right here before we start thinking, and I'll change that to a much more rich resistance level. I can do that again. Settings. Looks like I need to refresh my page. Reload. Do that again. Now we come over here to settings and we go to style, and we want to make that kind of a darker color so it stands out. And Harold, what if this rally, and I'll stretch that out for you, if this bounce is going to manifest to something, then from that high to that low, we need to start closing above 99.80, basically 100 and basically 100. We close above 100, then we can start targeting 150, 170. Not 150, 100.50, 100.70. Fair enough? But in the interim, this thing could fizzle here and still go lower. So to the upside, we break the swing point high and basically break this 101 area. Then I think we'll go up toward 102. We close above 102, we shoot to 105, 107. If not, and we fizzle, then we start breaking down, we break 98.50, then I think it sets the tone. Technically speaking, we're going to make a new swing point low. Okay? What's it going to do? That's why we went short up here, got to a position of authority, and again, if that daily engaging slingshot disengages, then we're going to go back to this low, make a new low, and if you see us break below that 98.50, which is basically this swing point low, it sets the tone. Not only are we going lower toward these extensions, 97, 97.40 right there, but the bigger move, low to high, there's my 618. And by breaking this 98.50, says we're going down to 97.7, 97.40 right there, which is below this 97.80, right? So if we can do that, we push here, then that says the tone 75%, we're going to make a new swing point low. So it all kind of hinges at that 98.50. We close with a candle body, not a wick, but actual candle body closes below 98.50. It sets the tone. We're going to 97.70, 97.40, and those are below the 618 on the bigger move, which in turn says what? 75%, we're going to make a new swing point low at 95, 60, 70 plus, we're going to 95.12. Got it? So if we break this, we go up here, we don't, we break 98.50, we're going, in my humble opinion, a new swing point low. And that downtrend continuation is simply continuing. Okay? All right. And to the upside, we break close above 102. And again, in my humble opinion, we break and close a candle body above 102. That sets the tone. We're going to hit that short squeeze and we're going to go popping toward 105, 107. That's the plan. And in the interim, it's a coin toss. We're stuck between support and resistance. We got short-term resistance and support. We got larger term resistance and support. But once we take this bigger support out, we're going to make a new low. We take the bigger resistance out, we're going to make this 105, 107 journey. Okay? All right. What about Tesla? Still kind of chopping and grinding. I did make a statement last week that if we got down to 14, I'd look at adding to my position. We dipped into the 14s there, Emil. Does that mean this can't dip any lower? All I can say is we dip any lower, I'm adding again, as I'm looking for TSLL to rip when Mr. Tesla goes ripping. And I made a statement last week that I think Tesla needs to come toward that 380, kind of approaching the Magic Fibo. 380 was kind of a nice target to reach, and we got down to 382. Is that the end? Maybe, maybe not. But all I can say is, wouldn't mind Tesla dipping one more time to then go bouncing and TSLL do the same, where I can add more. I already own hundreds of shares. I'm looking to own more shares and more on this dipping. TSLL will dip, and I'm continuing to add because I do think Tesla is going to go ripping higher as we move toward the end of the year slash first quarter. And already from the recent high to low, we took out the 618, we took out the 786. So that is screaming 550 to 650 range. Minimum, my target was 550 up here. So if we can dip down to 380 or 375, for example, something like that, or any lower, then that rip up will be pretty substantial. And we kind of did this for you the other day. Say we bounce off of this zone and we go up to that 600 target, 550, 600, that'd be about a 60% gain. We do that with TSLL, and a 60% gain would put us up about 120%, and that would put us up in the mid 30s. And we're buying it down in the 10, 12. I bought a bunch down in here when it dipped real low, and then I added some more. And if it dips again, I'm going to add some more. Keep adding for what? Minimum, we'll probably get to the 30s. And if Tesla can actually go ripping up into 700 or 800, and there's a bunch of call options out even in the 900 area. If that thing goes ripping up there, then this TSLL 2x leveraged is going to go into the stratosphere. And if we do that, then we're talking somewhere in the 80 plus dollar range. And we can get it at 16. I like it. Remember what we did with TSLL back in October of last year. Right there, when we were down in October, I made a statement that Tesla was going to make a run toward 500. You might consider TSLL, and it went from below $10 up to 41.50. Beautiful move. And how do I know I said that? Because right here, you go back into October of 25, right there. Expect Tesla hit 500. Consider the TSLL trade. Can't tell you what to do, but boy, did that baby play out. That was a thing of beauty. Amen? So, what's next? Keep an eye on TSLL. I still think I'm going to go much higher. So even if this is the end and we don't go lower, great. I'm already in it to win it for that thing to go much higher. But if we do get a dip, I got some more resting orders, 1450, 14, 1350, 13. Love to see one more little quick dip, gobble up all those new shares, and then go ripping into the end of the year / first quarter next year. So I'm looking for a big run to come on Mr. TSLL, just like it did last time. In October, went up. A few months later, bingo, from below 10 to above 40, 41.50. What a move. So can I guarantee we're going to break that? Well, I could say if Tesla goes to 700, 800 or higher, no question we're going to start pushing 40s, 50s on that. But if Tesla only runs to that 600 zone, then it should put us somewhere around that $30 range, which is still fine by me. That's still more than a double, and it's way more than a double when we talked about buying it way down in this zone when it looked like it was never going to go anywhere. Telling you the same thing. Tesla's going to make that run. TSLL is going to make the run. And we hadn't even gotten to the interesting part, right, Emil? We hadn't even made it above the 618 from the prior high to low. We hadn't made it above the 618 yet to open the door to the 40s and 50. But even if it's a total dud and Mr. Tesla runs to that 600 range, 550, 600, this should still pop toward this zone, right? That's if it's a dud and you're still double, triple your money, even if you get in now, talking double. I like it. A double, double animal style. Again, no buy, sell the whole recommendations, but that's the plan for this thing to go ripping again when Tesla makes its push into the end of the year, first quarter. I don't know the exact timing. I just know on the technical picture, this thing is due to go ripping. When Tesla rips, this thing rips times 2. Amen? All righty. So, what else? We hadn't talked about this, but let's move into our Bitcoin again. I did this first thing this morning, and I said this would be a good area, Mr. Toussaint, for this thing to reverse from. I bought some December call options on iBit, way out of the money. It was worth 24 cents at the time when I got in right before the start of class. And right now, when I discussed it first thing, it was up like 4 cents, 16%. Right now, at the moment, it's up 29%. It's now a whopping 31 cents per contract. So that's $31 per contract. And I bought these 66 iBits calls. IBIT. So I can't tell you what to do. This thing could expire worthless and I lose my $24 per contract. Or if you buy one now, you're $31 a contract. But this is a perfect area for Bitcoin to bounce from. It's also a pretty good place for iBit to bounce from, and that's my 618, 786 zone. And if Bitcoin goes ripping, then this is going to go ripping. And what I like most about it, just like the Mars shares when we got in for around $1, it went up to 2 and change before it then plummeted. So this one doesn't have to get to 60, 70, or 80 to start making money. This thing starts moving toward this Magic Fibo up here. It'll be in the money. Right now, it went from 24 to 31. Like I said, 29% change already. So that'll tell you this thing doesn't have to get anywhere near the 66 to make some profit. Amen? And if it does, which typically is what it does on the next bounce, that if Bitcoin goes ripping toward that 150, This thing is going to go ripping, obviously. And the last time we made one of these corrections and then bounces, right? That type of bounce off a run, and it was roughly about the same size. This thing kind of rinses and repeats, roughly about the same size bounce. We get a correction, it makes another run bounce, and we get a correction and we make another bounce. That would put us about 70 something roughly. So I went out December because maybe it takes next year before it gets way up here to 70s. But again, we in the next month or so get up near 60 or higher, this thing's going to be way in the money, even before it reaches 66. Especially if we can get there before the end of this month and still have well over 3 weeks roughly to get up here. So that's why I took it. There's risk. Like I told you, most I can lose is 24 cents per contract, and I bought several, just to give you an idea. I didn't just buy one, but that is $24 per contract. Same thing with Mara. It went from $1 to 2 plus, and then it went down to basically expire worthless if you didn't take those profits. But anytime I see my options more than double in price, I can't help myself. I always go to take profits, or at least put a little note into my broker to say, my contract I bought at $1. If it's at $2, if it goes anything less than $1.50, I want you to close it out, right? If I try to stay in it. Or if I have multiple contracts, I'll close some out, maybe leave a little something. And if the last one starts to break that more, then I close the last one for a little less profit, but still profitable. Well, that thing more than doubled those 20 call options on Mara last time. And that's what I'm expecting IBIT to do. And this is, again, perfect place for IBIT to bounce, and more importantly, Bitcoin to bounce. And if Bitcoin continues this bounce, this is going to continue to run. And my 24 cents, which again is at 31 cents, should go to 50, 70, $1. What if this thing just goes and Bitcoin goes ripping, and we get anywhere near that 66 call that I put out there, which is right in this area, 66. If we get anywhere near there, this thing is going to be well, triple, quadruple, etc., way into the money. And if we blow past the 66 and get in true in the money and still have some time left, then these things are going to be in the dollars, from cents to dollars. I like the potential. Very little risk because there's a limited amount of risk for a potential massive move. If you need more time, maybe you push it out to January. It's going to be a little bit more expensive, but it's up to you. But I do think Bitcoin's destined to make a bounce, even if we just get this. And this is the beginning of the end. We get another 618 retracement for the crypto winter. Bitcoin does the same, and then it goes plummeting, and that's the end. 126 was all-time high, and it's over. And we get that. That's moved towards 60. That's another $7 up. What do you think those 31 cents call options are going to be worth? And we make a $7 run there. We shall see. All righty. I digress, but you get the point. So, in closing, this does not guarantee this is the bottom. This is a good sign that we went into the support zone. We were looking for the ideal place for Bitcoin to come dead center, basically, for us to come to make a reversal. Now, what do we need? This was a red candle earlier, and I said if we can get that croquet finish with a big wick and a green body, that's a good sign. Well, the day has not over, not even close to being over, but it is a good sign. So if we can then get this move to start breaking above 100,000 from the high, and I'll run one, it'll put it actually here, from the recent high down to this low. I mean, we really need to get above that 100 zone, that 618 zone right there. Here's the one, prior one off of that move. And then here's the one I just put in there. So let me remove this for a second so you can see what that looks like. From that high to this low, this needs to continue. We need to get above this resistance zone up here. And that is my 618786 zone right there. That's an important zone for us to get through. So I go over here, this is resistance. We start cooking with some grease. We start getting above this area because we start closing above this pink box. Then we got a 95%, 75% chance we go up here to 110, 112 area, 70%. And imagine we do that. We go closing above this, that downtrend of lower highs, that would bring us toward the magic Fibo and bring us toward that 110, 112 target. So again, we close above here, we have a 75% chance we go to 110, 70 plus we go to 112. And what if Bitcoin does that? That IBIT is going to be worth a hell of a lot more than 31 cents because IBIT's going to go up significantly as well. Amen? All righty. Then when we start getting above that, the big level to watch is from the bigger high to low, and that's this bigger pink box up here. We start closing above that 112 level, then it kind of sets the tone, right? Not a wick, but a candle body. We start closing above that 113, say, 112 and change, 112, 112,500, 113,000. Start closing above that with a candle body, then it says 75%, we go on to 131, 70 plus, we go on to 135. What I don't want to see is this bounce go up and fizzle at that 618 up there. Worst case would be we fizzle here and break even lower. So I can't promise you that just because this looks good, this is guaranteed, absolutely, no questions asked. This is the end, and we will not break any lower until the crypto winter hits, and we're going ripping into the 150s and above. Could it be? Yes. It is an ideal place from the low to the high. That is the perfect place for it to reverse from. And if it does, and we got a long way to go, we got to get above the resistance zone and start targeting extensions, get above the magic Fibo, start targeting extensions. And if we get something like that, then it sets up a potential where we could bounce not only the 150 target, but start pushing us into the stratosphere toward the upper end of that 170 plus, maybe 180 or higher. That sets up a big bounce. Amen? All right. Check this out. For those of you keeping score, that what if we do this 3.2, right? This low, that high, this higher low, that sets up 173, minimum 150, 155, 173. And typically when you get a magic Fibo slash 618 perfect bounce like that, this is the magic Fibo, we're below it, but on this one, that sets up what? Likely going to the 1618, 173. Now again, I'm not saying this is guaranteed the low, and we're definitely going to 173, but that's a perfect place for this to bounce from. And guess what? Look where we are. Huh. This could be a 3-day magic Fibo bounce. Not only a 618 slash magic Fibo bounce, but that reiterates that 173 target up here. That's off the daily. Now, I don't want to see us close below, bounce into it, fail, and break new lows. That means we're going to go deeper. But if this holds and this turns around, this is now a 3-day chart. This is turning in from a big rejection wick. Does this thing go in the next 3-day hammer? Does it go to a green candle and set the tone for the bounce? But that is a 618 Magic Fibo, the combo meal bounce, as we talk about. And that typically pushes from the low to the high to the higher low. That typically pushes a 1618. That's up here at 173. Fair enough? And those say, what is that? That's from this high to that low. That's an extension going that way. But the 3-point tool is the one up here. I like it. What if we don't hold this and we keep going lower? Well, we still got a little ways to go to get down here for the weekly. I got to remove that for you. The weekly is a little bit further down. I would not like to see us hit that weekly. Still possible, we could still bounce and do it, but kind of gets uncomfortable zone, because if we break below this support zone, then yeah, that's exactly where we're going to go. There's those extensions. Everybody with me? So I'm willing to take the risk. And if it pops and it doubles, I might close some of the, options I have, some of the contracts, and then leave the rest to run. And then maybe, depending on where it is, if it gets up to $1 and I got in at 24 cents, then I might say, well, anything that breaks below 50 cents on the remaining ones I don't close, then still, if it dips down there, it could close me out for my final take profit. Because I do think if Bitcoin's going to reverse and go, that high bid calls could go into the dollars. The question is it going to get there by December? I don't know. Could it be January? Maybe. So maybe you buy a little something, something in December and push a few more out to January. Give you a little bit more time. It's up to you. Amen? All righty. I think I exhausted that. But this, again, is a perfect place to reverse from. And it happens to be a 3-day Magic Fibo bounce. And the question is, do we turn this above and start getting to this zone to set to the extensions, to then set that zone to set to the extensions, and then we do another all-time high? That would be a thing of beauty. And because we do that, Ian, because of that high, that low, Magic Fibo / 618 type of bounce, that then sets the tone with the 3-point tool for this bigger move up into the 170s potentially. I like it. So I can't guarantee this is definitely the end of the correction. Is this enough to get everybody freaked out about? Or do we need to go a little bit lower to then freak everybody out? Then we go ripping. But I don't think Bitcoin is just going to continue lower and that's the end. And you would go, folks, that was the end of the big run. Now it's crypto winter. We're going down, 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 because we need to see at least a 618 retracement failure to kind of set the tone like it did here. 618 retracement set the failure to go lower. We get another 618 retracement, set the failure to go lower, then maybe. But for now, this looks pretty good on a short-term bounce. Let's see where it bogs down. Got it? All righty. Back to my daily. Do we get above this to set the tone? We're going above the Magic Fibo. That would be a very positive sign that we're able to get above the Magic Fibo on the daily chart. Got it? And if we get slightly above, then there's your 618,786 zone, and we close above the 618, basically that 113,000, we close above that, then it's game on, highest of highest percentage. We're going up here to new highs. So to the long of it, we got major support we're holding right now, and we got major resistance. We start breaking resistance, we go to the next level. Break that, we go to the extensions. We break that, then say hello to my original target. Pretty simple. Any questions? And what does that look like? That looks like Bitcoin. So looking maybe, right, Mr. Tucson, maybe we need the daily to finish the cycle like the ES and some of the other markets. So that's why this could be a bounce off the cloud. My weekly has the same thing. Was I on the weekly already? Yeah, that is the weekly. So my daily is oversold and starting the hook process. So I'm going to go ahead and enter this trade. That would not work. Not even close. And then buy the trigger long. Yep. There we go. That's why. Stop loss, take profits were way too close. This is a big deal. And let's go down to like a 4-hour and move these out. There we go. Wondered why that didn't work. The stop losses were not even accessible. Smart machine won't let you enter a stupid trade when you got your, whoops, that's the wrong place. I didn't mean to move that. That's my entry one. So it'll go back into its rightful place. And my stop loss, give it a little bit more than that off of that bounce. And now, let's see what this looks like. Entry point, stop loss below the swing point low. Just so I can let that trade run. And we got to take profit. If this thing goes breaking out, I can move that much higher. See, on-screen programming, ladies and gentlemen. And move that higher. We start breaking above and move this higher. Like to see us get up at least above the Magic Fibo. And then we could even push this out to a weekly, give you a lot more to shoot for. And let's just go for broke. I don't know how much it's going to allow me to condense this. It probably won't. But you can do it several different ways. What if I want to put this up to 160? For my target, go to trendline properties. That is my take profit 3 right there. And go in the parameters. And I could just change this value right here to tell it I want to go to 160. 160,000.00, and this one 160,000.00. Say okay, and you see it moves it up to that target because this would not allow me to compress it enough to get up there, but it's there. And then we can move this take profit to trendline properties. Turn this, and that would say over here, take profit 2, see it right there, number 2, and go up here, make that 150. And then do the same here, 150. Say okay. And then a good place for the take profit 1 would be somewhere around that 618 type of retracement, that daily Magic Fibo. So I'll leave it around that 112-ish, 110, 111, close enough. Got it? All righty, so I'm gonna let this thing run. And what we expect to happen, if this is ready to go, this is the reversal PAI hook entry. And now we're looking for this thing to potentially take off. And once we get to a position of authority and my 4-hour gets to overbought territory, I'll look to take a profit, even if we're not quite there. Get at least a position of break even +1. All right, so let's close and say that Ethereum, we may need the same kind of thing. Is this the bounce we go breaking out, or do you need one more push? Again, big picture, Harold, this is a good area for Ethereum to reverse from. Recent swing point low up to the swing point high, 618786 Magic Fibo bounce. So is this the beginning, or do we need to go a little bit lower to then bounce? We shall see. But that sets up a 3-point tool. If this is the low, that's the high, and this is the higher low. That puts us about potentially 8,800. I like it. 7,000. Yeah. Even if it's just A, B, C, we'd expect it to go towards 66. So this is why I've been saying, even though with this, I'm not convinced this is the crypto winter high or the bull run high, and we're in the beginning of the crypto winter low. We still need some sort of bounce. And if this bounce off of this measured bounce here, double whammy, even if it's just an A, B, C, we should come near that, right? And if it is a true measured combo meal, measured bounce slash 618 Magic Fibo bounce combo meal, then it typically pushes toward the 1618, which seems impossible, but we shall see. Bottom line, if this is the end, then you typically should see a retracement back toward a 618. And that's what I told you the other day, that even worst case scenario, people, that is the end of the crypto bull run, and we're in the crypto winter. We're likely going to get a 618 retracement out of that, aka go back to 4,000 and retest to then potentially fail and call it quits. Or this could be the beginning of that bounce to get one of these huge extensions way up there. We shall see. Amen? All righty then. So with that, I'll say good luck. God bless you. May the pips be with you. I'm humbled and honored to be your mentor and instructor. Join us again tomorrow. That's it. That's all.